Well, how's it going, everybody? So I had a question. Actually, I've had this question a couple times. What all have I done to the KPR200? Now, I haven't done anything to the motor or the gears. Now, I am planning on changing the front sprocket, the gearing on the front. I'm gonna go up 1 on the front, and I plan on going down 2 on the back. So that would give me a 16 on the front and a 42 on the rear. I haven't done that yet. I'm still trying to figure out which gears, or I should say, which sprockets, sorry, with the ratios. Those are the ratios I want, but I don't know which sprocket brand yet. So what have I done so far to this bike? I took it out the other day and ran it, top speed again. I'm up to 80 on the speedo, but that shows 77 GPS. I have a video of that I'll get out. It's on the GoPro, so I got to convert it. But it shows the GPS on the phone. It was hitting 77. I think changing out my sprockets, going to a better gear ratio, I think this bike would easily do probably in the neighborhood of probably 84, maybe 85. I don't know at my weight. I weigh 185. That's probably one of the larger factors in affecting the top speed. But what have I done to this bike? All right, real quick. If you've seen some other videos, which I hope you have, if you haven't, take a look. But I'm gonna go over some things. I did put on the KP Moto Club. That is the brake lever and the clutch lever. Those are the official ones that go with the Lifan bikes. Now, for the 200 series bikes, they are the red and they do break over. You notice that I do have, some people call these a throttle control, other people call them a cruise control. It is a throttle assist because whenever you do have your throttle up, if you want to stay at a highway speed, you can kind of lock it like that. Now it will slowly turn down on you, so it's more like an assist. It just kind of helps out so that if your hand's cramping up on a longer ride, it's not as bad. So I've added this piece. I added these on either side. Of course, I added the cell phone holder, which that's all the stuff I got off Amazon, and that's been real nice. This cell phone holder, it's been real good. I mean, it's been solid. The phone on there, and whenever I was able to film my top speed, my phone actually went into that piece. As far as other parts on the bike, I have changed out the foot pegs. Now, I already lost one of the screws in my foot peg, and notice that those aren't stainless, so I do need to go back with some all stainless screws in there because they do have surface rust, and that one did fall out. Rule 1 on this bike, get you some Loctite or put lock washers on the bike, because this thing does vibrate pretty good and there's no Loctite on anything, so things will come off. So I did add the exhaust. Now this is the KP Moto Racing exhaust. It's all stainless, and the exhaust system goes all the way up to the jug, and so I have an installation video on that. Now I did change out that screw right there. If you're seeing this video and you're thinking about changing out your exhaust, get you some type of stainless screw to go in there that's a little longer so that you can have that proper spacing and everything. I think it was essential putting that on there at a really good angle that I actually went and changed out that whole lock washer nut and the bolt that went through. You can see on this side I changed out, of course, this foot peg. I do like these just because they were red, they match the bike, and I didn't like the rubber ones because they were actually narrower. They came out longer, but they were narrow, and they were actually taller, so the angle on the shift was a little bit off in my opinion. I like it to have flat because I can get a better shift. If you noticed, I also changed the kickstand on it and got that off Amazon. It's kind of big and bulky looking, but I wanted something taller so that whenever the bike is on the kickstand, it didn't lean over as far. Now you'll notice that I do have my stand that it's on now, and I keep the bike on the stand, but on the kickstand, on the factory one, the bike angle, I mean, it was bad. So I like to have my bikes a little bit more upright. I don't like having them lean over as far. It's just my preference, but that is an adjustable kickstand that I got off Amazon. Of course, I did change the chain, and the chain that I went with was an X-ring full roller chain. Now, any X-ring chain you get is going to be way better than factory. They don't stretch as much. They do seem a little bit quieter, but people will tell you that it's possible that they are parasitic on the power meaning that it will eat a little bit of power coming out of the engine. It is a heavier, larger chain, but you know, that could affect some acceleration. Probably not too much, but if you're trying to squeeze out every ounce, it counts. So the other thing that I've done, which is a modification, I'm going to show you. What I'm going to do is take off the back seat because I keep it under there. But in the back seat, I have what I took out of the bike because I just stored it right there so I could show it on this video. This is what is under the seat here on top of the air box. So under here is the air filter. You take off these two bolts and this whole seat comes out. And when that seat comes out, underneath was this. Now, if you noticed before, that's as much air that you could get into the engine. Look at that, literally 2 fingers worth, right? Well, if you go to this exhaust, compare that to factory, that's a beast right there compared to factory, way more airflow. So this bike, I was having some issues with acceleration from red lights. It wasn't anything, you know, egregious. It was just, it wasn't right. So I started doing research. Whenever you improve airflow through the exhaust, you better improve your intake. And if you notice, the air goes into the box through these slits on the side, right? Pretty good design. The problem was once it got under the seat, this was positioned like that, and the air had to go in backwards through those. I took this whole thing off, and now that is the surface area I get on my intake. This whole ovid shape right here, that's a lot more airflow, and I can feel it. And I tell you what, it really helps the bottom end on this bike. It may even help the top end a little bit, but I guarantee coming off the line, it gives it more power. So things here and there I've done to the bike. The biggest one is probably the exhaust, because that is about $300. You know, foot pegs, whatever you want, they're inexpensive. The levers are about $75. The phone attachment, those are like $20 to $30. The, you know, power assist or throttle assist right here, I think those are like $15. I did have to fix the bike because that part came broken from the factory. And if you noticed, I'm gonna have to replace this front windscreen eventually because these came cracked as well from the pressure just being over tightened. That's what killed that, as a matter of fact. So performance wise, I changed a few things out, like maintenance. So I went with new spark plugs that I put in myself that I gapped, because the one I took out of the bike was gapped at a 0.3, a little bit over 0.3. It's supposed to be gapped, and I just say 0809 because you say 0.8 or 0.9. I gap mine between the 8 and the 9. But those are the plugs you use right there. That's at CPR 8 EA9, and sometimes it's the Roman numeral 9, so it'd be IX. And then I changed the oil, of course. I went straight with Mobil 1. Now this is the racing oil, so it does take a high heat. It is really good to prevent shearing. It's 10W40 because of the weather that I have around here. This is the best oil I could use. And any 150,000 mile radiator fluid, ready to use, 50-50 mix. Now some people call these different ones gold labels, and usually they'll have a different color label. Now the one that I put in here was a different brand. It was a smaller bottle. It was a little more expensive. It was 50-50, 5 years, 150,000 mile. It was a name brand. It was a gold label radiator fluid. Changed that out. So those are the things that I've done to this bike. Performance wise, I don't know, y'all have seen some of the videos where I've done roll on 60. Luckily the highways around here, the top speed is 75, so I can go out and basically hit the top speed on this bike without breaking any laws. Once I change out my gear ratio through my sprockets, I think that I'll of course pick up some speed, and as the motor continues to break in, this bike does get a little more power. Just be sure if you get one, you go through and you tighten, check of course your bolts that have to do with anything on your wheels to make sure that everything is tight within spec, front and back. Check the chain to make sure there's not too much slack in it. Make sure that the ring is on the chain. Just anything you would do, even getting a bike from a dealership. Even when I buy them from the dealership, I go home and go over them. Make sure all the caps are on tight. Make sure there's no oil leaking. Make sure there was no fluid spilled on top of the motor whenever service was done. If you do the service yourself, be sure and clean everything off. Get an appropriate oil for where you live. Hey, with the radiator fluid, just use the best you can get. Make sure that it's really good radiator fluid, and it'll pay you in dividends. This one, the fan would come on after about 3 or 4 minutes outside, and this is Texas, so it's warm. With this higher grade radiator fluid, it comes on at the end of a ride. When I stop moving and I've been pushing on it, then the fan comes on. So these are the kind of things to look for and do if you want one of these bikes. You know, check your tensions on your different screws on the front. You have to install these yourself, but make sure you don't over tighten anything. Use Loctite or any other brand of screw thread lock. Check your front fender. Now my fender, this is plastic. I used to think it was painted because it's shiny like it's painted, and it looks pretty like it's painted, but come to find out it's plastic. Just make sure everything's tight on it. Check your brake calipers. Make sure that everything is good there and that you don't have any warped rotors. Basic maintenance right out of the box is what you're going to be responsible for. The more things you put on the bike, the more things you're going to be responsible for. Make sure you torque everything down. You know, I did remove that restrictor on the airbox. That's on me though. If something happens and you have water intrusion, because it could be that design so that water rolls off the top of it, I don't ride my bike in the rain. If you do, you may want to keep that on there. Somebody keeps asking me about the exhaust. Has it broken in? I seem to think that it sounds good. So we're in neutral. Let's start it up. Yeah, it's definitely broken in, and it's got a deeper tone to it. Notice I did get my plates on it finally. That whole registration process took a while because of COVID, but I mean, that sounds good. It does run a little bit rich, which is a lot better than a little bit lean, so I can't complain about that, but it has only 6,000 RPMs. This thing redlines. I can get it up to 9,500 RPMs. So it does get pretty loud. At about 7,000 RPMs on the highway, that's when it gets a little loud inside the helmet. So look at that, idling at about 1,400. I could idle it up just a hair, but on a nice hot day, it does idle itself up just a tad whenever it's a little bit warmer. It's humid today, but it's not too hot. So all the things I've done, the things I want to do, things you could do. Like I said, you could do your gearing. You could go through and change out your cables if you wanted to. Some people have changed out these cables to a higher grade cable. So far we're doing good. Haven't had any more hiccups after that little plastic piece broke. And after the fact that I gave it a little more airflow. Let's see how many miles we're at right now. We're at 418. So 418 miles. Drive it like I stole it. So I've got it broken in. It rides nice. So any more questions, or if you want to know, like I said, I think I've shown you the specifics on the different elements of what's required to get your service done initially yourself. I will have to go in, remove the fairings, and check the engine on my what's it called? Oh, my valve clearance. I'm gonna have to check the valve clearance. So I'll have to do that myself. That's gonna be fun. It should take me, with no experience, about 4 hours. Anyway, that's all that I've done. That's all that I need to do, besides ride it. So if you got any more questions or anything, put them in the comments. I'll get to them best I can. I hope this helps and answers y'all's questions on what I've done and what you can do to your own bike. If you're thinking about getting one, maybe this helps. A lot of people order them off Amazon. I ordered mine from powersportsmax.com. They're not an Amazon dealer, but they're an independent dealer listed on the Lifan page. Anyway, good questions. Keep them up, and I'll give you answers as I get them. Have a great day, everybody.